So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar of OVHcloud and Megaport. My name is Stefan Schäfer. I'm heading up the global product marketing in OVHcloud, and I'm having with me Paul McGuinness. Maybe, Paul, you make a little intro.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. My name is Paul McGuinness. I'm head of solutions in Europe for Megaport, and I'm based out of the London office.
And I'm based in Cologne, Germany. And we are talking today about OVHcloud Connect, which is a cooperation product created and launched by OVHcloud and Megaport together. Because we have different audiences, some coming from Megaport, some coming from OVHcloud, we will make a little intro of what is OVHcloud, later what is Megaport, so that you are aware of the full picture. But we will keep it short and then focus mainly on the product itself and explain how the product is working and how you can order this product, and we will make a demo at the end. We also will have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to ask your questions. You can put them into the chat and we will take a look at it at the end of this webinar. Okay, so quick intro, what is OVHcloud? OVHcloud is a cloud service provider who is building data centers based on their own hardware, own network and own production. It's a European cloud service provider coming from France, having in Germany and in UK data centers as well. We have a highly vertically integrated business model, which means that we are owning our data centers. We are owning the hardware in the data centers. We don't use third-party hardware. We only use our own hardware. We create our own servers, and we own also the land and the network between all of our data centers. We have currently 32 data centers worldwide, all connected via our own network, which is called VREC. There is a reason why we built our servers ourselves, and that is our water cooling effect. So what we do is we have a patented water cooling system, which allows us to have a very high PUE or very low PUE, a very optimal PUE for our power usage efficiency. And we have built all our servers based on this. So we use servers, of course, with Intel and AMD chips, for example, or NVIDIA, but we always put a water cooling system on top of it and don't have electricity fans there that are doing the cooling. We do that based on this water cooling. And this means that we have a very specific setup. So we are not using third-party hardware. We're not apart from the chips, and we're not using co-locations. We all have our own data centers and our own hardware in there. And that allows us to have a specific setup, which is a very European-centric one. So we are therefore independent from, for example, Freedom Act or Cloud Act activities or regulations that are coming out of the United States, and that are relevant for or important for all cloud providers that are operating out of the United States. And we are also, of course, independent from Chinese hardware or regulations, because we are not using Chinese hardware here. So that's why OVHcloud is a European provider and is building on the overall data sovereignty topic, and we are fully GDPR compliant. If you have heard about Gaia X, for example, we are also a founding member of Gaia X, which is the activity that is trying to build a European cloud and building European data sovereignty, so that each one in Europe can be sure that all data that is stored in data centers that are Gaia X compliant, and also OVHcloud data centers are supporting this, can be sure that at every point in time only European regulations are taken into account. There's no access from outside Europe, and there's no regulation from outside Europe that this data center is underlying. We have 5 POPs if we talk now about connecting to our data centers. Our data centers, we have 32 data centers. We just opened the last one in Sydney a week ago. That's why we are always changing our notification, say it's 32 now, it's not 31 anymore. And this, we have a lot of them in France, in Roubaix, and we have one in Limburg, we have in London one, in Warsaw, and we have different POPs so that you can access to our data centers from the place where you are as a customer. And we have in Europe 5 POPs. You can see them here. So we have a POP in London, one in Paris for all the French data centers, one in Madrid, one in Frankfurt, and one in Warsaw. And the customer can connect to our data centers via these POPs. So there is an ability to just create your own fiber access to our POPs, and then from there you can access all OVHcloud data centers. So if you are connecting to the Frankfurt POP, for example, you can not only connect to the Limburg data center of OVHcloud, you can via the OVHcloud network connect via the Frankfurt POP to all there are 32 data centers out there if you want to go to Singapore, Montreal, wherever you want to have that. And we ensure from the POP to the OVHcloud data center the security and the latency so that it is supporting all the standards that you have and all the requirements that you have for security and latency. And you, as a customer, have only to take care for this part of the connectivity from your own, let's say, on-premise installation to the POP. Now, you see, we have only 5 POPs in Europe, and in order to make sure that we can increase the network for our customers of POPs where you can connect to and have then the full connectivity under the security and latency requirements, we set up a cooperation. And our cooperation is, in this case, with Megaport, who are with us currently. And Megaport has a large footprint of POPs around the world, and Paul will talk about that in a minute. And what we do, we created a secure connectivity from the Megaport POPs to our POPs. So you can set up your connectivity from your home as a customer to a Megaport POP in your nearest vicinity, and from that Megaport POP set up a connection directly to one of the POPs of OVHcloud. And then you have an end-to-end security and an end-to-end latency guaranteed and speed guaranteed as you order it, depending on the ordering. And we will have a look at how to order that on the OVHcloud side and on the Megaport side after the slides and give you a clear demo. So this is the product that we actually launched already in November. And that is now available for all our customers, apart from the APAC region. So it's not currently available in APAC, but it's in Europe definitely available. And I think this is already Paul's slide.
That's great. Thank you, Stefan. So let me just take it from here and go into a little bit more detail about how to get connected to OVHcloud through Megaport. And the slide in front of us is really showing that in a simplistic way, but it is straightforward to get connected. So if you're starting at the top left, what we're expecting is our customers to come and meet us inside a data center.
Sorry, I'm jumping.
And they can reach out, go to any of the data center operators that are nearby the location that the customer is in. In many cases, the customers will be or you will be in the same data center as us because we're deployed in over 700 data centers worldwide. And then once you're physically connected to a Megaport location with a 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig connection, you can then connect to OVHcloud across our network. And all of that provisioning and connectivity is under your control through the Megaport portal. So you can be in control of the bandwidth, decide on the bandwidth that you want and turn it up and down, all within the rules set out by OVHcloud and other cloud providers. It's all private and entirely traveling across a private network, so that allows you peace of mind and security for your data going to OVHcloud. And we don't lock you into any long-term contracts. So if you want to alter the speed or turn on additional services or turn them off, you can do that without any penalties. So next slide. And then just to compare that to traditional connectivity. So in a traditional world, you would go to the provider, you would negotiate a long-term contract for a fixed data rate, and you'd be locked into that contract. And you would have limited amount of options to change that and probably a contract negotiation. With Megaport, like I said before, the provisioning is under your control inside the Megaport portal that I'll show you later. You can also provision with the API and automate those provisioning steps if you want to. Not locked into a contract, so you can turn off services when you don't need them. And the services are quick to deploy as well, so they can be available in under a minute when you provision that through our portal. So nice and easy to use and fully flexible amount of providers that you can connect through. So that means go to any of the data center providers that we're in globally, and then we'll get you connected to OVHcloud. You don't have to worry about that B end of the connection into OVHcloud because we have fulfilled that with the OVHcloud Connect product. So let's look at that from a technical point of view. How does it all physically work together? So looking at a layer 2 connection, well, starting at the top, the customer or you would connect your device into a Megaport port inside one of the data centers. So the big rectangle, the red rectangle here is the Megaport port. That can be a 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig. You would physically cross connect into that port. We'll give you the letter of authorization to do that, and the data center provider will make the cross connect for you. From then on, the provisioning is under your control, so you can provision connectivity to OVHcloud at the data rate that you require, or to the other things shown here on this slide. So the connection to OVHcloud and the others, that's all using standard connectivity options. So in the case of OVHcloud, it's OVHcloud Connect, and with the others, they've got their standard products as well. You can also connect this port to other ports globally. So for example, if you took a port in Frankfurt, you could connect that to another port in Paris or New York or Singapore. So it allows you to have some MPLS replacement options there as well. So as we're trying to demonstrate on this image, the port can have many, many connections on that from the same physical port. You can have up to 100 different connections reaching out to 100 different things. Okay. So previously we just talked about the layer 2 option of connecting to OVHcloud. Now I'd just like to cover a little bit about connecting using layer 3. So we've got a virtual routing device that sits on the Megaport network. You can decide where to spin up this device. It's called a Megaport Cloud Router. It comes in 4 different sizes based on throughput, from 1 gigabit per second right the way up to 10 gigabits per second. So you could deploy one of these in Paris, for example, or Frankfurt, and then decide on the throughput that you want, connect it to OVHcloud Connect, and then connect it off to other things. Those other things might be other cloud providers. It might be connectivity back to your on-prem data center so that you have hybrid connectivity. And all of that's under your control. It's supporting static routing, BGP, NATing, and we've got additional advanced functionality coming down the line all of the time. So we're always adding new features to the Megaport Cloud Router. So on the next slide, I'll just explain kind of some of the benefits around using the Cloud Router. The alternative to using an MCR is to set up your own routing device inside a data center. So in that case, you would be routing your traffic that needs to go from cloud to cloud down to the data center and then back up again. And you'll be doing a lot of tromboning of that traffic where it's in many cases unnecessary. You'd also have to, take some racking, pay for a lot of additional services there, when all you really need is a routing functionality that you can spin up in minutes, and you don't have to be in that exact location to use the Megaport Cloud Router, you can just go into our portal, provision that device, and then connect it to multiple things, up to 25 things, in fact. And again, you're not locked into any contracts. It's fast to provision, and all the connections are scalable. So let's look at some examples on that. But actually, before we look at some examples, let's have a look at the OVH partnership and some of the main points that we need to really call out here. So it is the OVH Connect provider solution. So this is a standard offering from OVHcloud, and we are offering that connectivity into OVH. In all cases, for the Connect provider solution, OVHcloud is expecting a layer 3 connection into the services there. So no matter if you're connecting from a physical port across Megaport into OVHcloud or through the Megaport Cloud Router, there needs to be a BGP session up and running between the different elements. And we can look at that. I'll go through some specific examples in the next few slides. You can just go to any of our global data centers and we'll get you to the doorstep of the OVHcloud Connect provider option for connecting into OVHcloud. The initial sites we're going to look at in a chart is Frankfurt, London, and Paris, and we've got some other ones coming on as well in North America. And then the speeds start at 200 megabits per second, and it goes up to 5 gigabits per second. You can change the speed after you come on at, let's say, a lower speed and you need more bandwidth. You can run through the order process again and request a higher speed, and then you'll have that available to you in a very short period of time. And then there's 3 different connectivity models as well that we'll cover shortly.
And you will see most of that when we go into the demo area. Then you will see exactly this selection criteria here again when we look at the OVHcloud website.
Great. Yeah, so looking at the locations that we have, we've got London, Paris, and Frankfurt right now with redundant connections there so that you can provision to any one of those locations and get redundancy. And then we have Singapore, Montreal, and Seattle coming on soon. So these will be additional sites. But then I think on the next slide, what we're showing is to get to these OVHcloud locations, you can just meet us anywhere. And we'll do all of the legwork. We'll get you there. Whatever you provision on our network, you will get that committed information rate. The highest data rate that we're offering by standard is 5 gigabits per second. But if you need multiple connections, you can just provision those multiple connections. Or indeed, if you did need something higher, then talk to us, talk to OVHcloud, and we can see what we can do. Okay, so let's look at the different options. So there are 3 different ways of connecting into OVHcloud with Megaport support. The first one is using a physical port in a data center that I described earlier, and we call these physical ports a Megaport. So that's Megaport giving you the layer 2 piece, and then you running layer 3 on top of that. And I've got a diagram shortly to show you that. The second one is using the Megaport Cloud Router. Again, I've got a diagram to show that. But the third one is a little bit different. So it's getting you to the dedicated offering. So today, you can get a dedicated connection to OVHcloud, but you have to get to the OVHcloud destination and plug in to their ports there. And you can use a provider to do that, that's fine. But what Megaport is offering is the ability to extend that reach. So for example, if you wanted to get to Frankfurt and maybe you're in Hamburg, you could connect to Megaport in Hamburg. We will get you across the country into Frankfurt, and then we'll facilitate that physical cross connect into OVH and get you that dedicated connectivity. Now it's fairly common, but the most common use cases are the first 2, connecting from a physical port or from the MCR. So let's go ahead and look at those in a little bit more detail on the next slide. Okay, so the first one is connecting from a port. So here on the left-hand side, we can see a data center where it's Megaport enabled. the customer is inside that data center, they will order a Megaport port that we can see here in the middle, a 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig port. They will then order a physical cross connect into that port. And then once that cross connect is in place, they can order a VXC, so that's a virtual cross connect, essentially a layer 2 VLAN from the port into OVHcloud Connect provider. Okay, nice and simple. All of our pricing is on our website, and we provide that to the public. You can go to pricing.megaport.com to see the cost of that virtual cross connect. The port cost is 500 euros per month. It's 500 euros per month for a 1 gig port or a 10 gig port. And then we also have some metro pricing. And the metro pricing example is, let's say you're in Frankfurt in another data center, you connect to Megaport, and then you're connecting to OVHcloud Connect, also in Frankfurt. So that means both ends are in the same metro. In that case, we only offer 2 levels of pricing. Up to 1 gig, it's 100 euros per month. And from 1 gig and above, that's 200 euros per month. So you can see you can get quite a lot of bandwidth for not a lot of cost inside a metro. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the Megaport Cloud Router option. So in this case, what we're showing in this diagram is connecting from OVHcloud on the left through the Megaport Cloud Router in the middle to another cloud provider on the right. We can also connect other things to this Megaport Cloud Router, like connecting back to on-prem to give you hybrid multi-cloud. And like I said earlier, we've got multiple different speeds for the MCR as well, starting at 1 gigabit per second throughput right the way up to 10 gigabits per second. Again, on either side of this, we can flex the virtual cross connect data rate to suit your needs. And in this case, BGP would be fulfilled between OVHcloud Connect and the MCR. So we'll automatically do that for you when you set up those connections. Whereas in the previous model, Stefan, if you just step back maybe one slide, I'll just highlight where the BGP is on the previous one.
This one?
Yeah, on this one, OVHcloud is expecting you to have a BGP session across the Megaport network on layer 2 and to establish that connection on your equipment inside the data center. So it's slightly different because we're doing the layer 2, you're doing the layer 2 to OVHcloud directly. Okay, so great. So we've covered that one. And then this is just showing you the hybrid cloud model. So in this case, we've got OVHcloud in Paris. We've got an MCR in Paris. We're connecting into AWS, which happens to be an EU West 1. We're connecting into other services available on the Megaport marketplace. And then we're also connecting back to a data center in Marseille. So this data center could be in Frankfurt, it could be in any of our global data centers, entirely under your control. So in this way, any communication that needs to go between OVH Paris and AWS in EU West 1 can just go directly through the Megaport Cloud Router without having to trombone all the way back to Marseille and then back up again. So it's a very efficient use of the Megaport Cloud Router. You can just decide the location where you want to place that virtual device, decide on the scale. You can even split them across different metros if you want, by placing one in Paris, place another one in Frankfurt, and then build up resilient solutions in that way. This is also a really popular use case for many medium to large enterprises who are maybe struggling with many connections to cloud. And the issue that they typically see is that they have got an on-prem network, but it's never been designed to have many BGP sessions coming from cloud to the on-prem devices. If you put an MCR in between your cloud connections and your on-prem network, in that case, you're sheltering the on-prem network from all of those BGP sessions. The Megaport Cloud Router is gathering all of those sessions and then just providing you with 1 or 2 BGP sessions back to your on-premise locations. We've also got route filtering available on the Megaport Cloud Router, and a bunch of other features as well that allows you to have full control over your traffic how that's advertised from one element to another and what you can do with that. So let's have a look at the next slide, and let's have a look at a customer use case. This is a use case with Kiwi.com. So they're one of the biggest or the fastest growing travel agents globally. And what they want to do is to have workloads in OVH Cloud, but also some of that inside Google Cloud Platform. So they want to really host a lot of their workloads managed by Kubernetes and GCP. And then in OVH Cloud, they want to run their database. So the Skyla database on that side. So what they need is a low latency connection between the two clouds to be able to do that. And this is actually a very common use case, database in one and then workloads in the other. In this case, we're not showing the elements here, but they're using the Megaport Cloud Router to tie the two clouds together. And they're also using on-prem data centers as well, just like in the previous example we looked at on the previous slide. So all of that allows them to get that low latency connection between the clouds so that the database information is working well with the applications and workloads in real time. Great. So just to wrap up, I'll just give you an overview of kind of the different models. We've touched upon all of these models as we've gone through the presentation today. But starting at the top left-hand side, we're looking at data center to data center. So this is where the customer would take a port and two data centers on the Megaport network anywhere globally. They can then connect those together from 1 megabit per second right the way up to 10 gigabits per second, entirely under their control. On the top right is really one of the main use cases we're here to talk about today. That's connecting into OVHcloud Connect from any data center that you want to, and being able to access all of those services in OVH Cloud. On the bottom left is pulling in that Megaport Cloud Router element. So for companies maybe who are born in the cloud, maybe don't have a data center presence, they can spin up a Megaport Cloud Router, connect it to OVHcloud Connect, and then connect it into other clouds as necessary. You can also connect in all of these cases to other people who are on the Megaport network. So you can connect to third parties, to partners of yours. And what you do is you swap a service key, just email it to each other, and then you can use that to connect privately across the Megaport network. So none of these elements are touching the internet. And then finally, on the bottom right, we're looking at the hybrid multi-cloud case. This is where the customer has got an on-prem or a data center presence. They're using the Megaport Cloud Router to do that cloud-to-cloud piece, and then they're going to multi-cloud, including getting to OVH Cloud Connect. Okay, so that really combines all of those and shows a summary of the different situations.
Yeah, and I think that's a good summary to switch over to the practical part of that presentation, because I think the next one is only the thank you, but we don't jump directly to the Q&A, because we want to present how you actually use and how you configure this solution. And that's why I change my presentation and would go now to the web page. And you should be able to see now the OVH Cloud web page. Are you?
Yes.
Lovely. You can see that I'm here on the Irish web page. That has two reasons. The number one is it's in English, not the German one. And the number two is it's still in Euro. And that's why we normally use the Irish web page for the presentation. We have here our normal bare metal cloud, hosted private cloud, public cloud, web cloud, which is the normal OVH stuff. And if you look at enterprise solutions, then you will find here the OVH Cloud Connect solution available for the customer to directly have a look at and configure it. And if we click on that, then you get a little overview and can order directly between the two, and you can select between two options. You have the option OVHcloud Connect via provider, which is what we are looking at, and the provider is obviously Megaport, and OVHcloud Connect directly, which is also the other option where you can directly connect to an OVHcloud POP. So I press the button Order Now here. And then you come to this step by step through the selection, and it is basically the same that we saw on the web page, on the slide we presented before. We have two providers, but we are obviously selecting Megaport here. So you have to first select the provider that you want to use. We are also having an Equinix product here, but we are looking at Megaport now. And you can then select the guaranteed bandwidth that you want to have for your connectivity. You have 5 choices with different prices, obviously. And I'm not sure, I just take the 500 megabit per second for the sake of the demo now. And then after that, you need to select, and that's basically all you have to do on this webpage, you need to select the POP in OVHcloud to which Megaport should be connected. And we have the 3 in the selection. We have the Germany one, which is in Frankfurt or London or Paris. I take the Frankfurt one. And then I have the overall summary here on the right side saying, okay, I'm using OVHcloud in the provider's style together with Megaport. My bandwidth guaranteed is selected 500. I take one port, 500 megabit per second, sorry for that, one port, and the point of presence I want to connect to at OVHcloud. And you remember we have 5 in Europe, but only 3 currently connected to Megaport, and I selected the Frankfurt one. The setup is for free. And then you have, according to our normal price list, this price. In this case, because this is Ireland, it's excluding VAT. And then I would push the order button, which I will not do now, obviously. And that is the OVHcloud part. So that is basically making sure that the OVHcloud POP is ready to be connected for your data center installation or your virtual machines via Megaport. Of course, this is only half of the story, and the other half of the story is then how you set up the whole network POP at Megaport side, and that's what Paul will present to us now.
Okay, great.
So I will. Okay, do I need to, or are we?
No, I think I've just been handed control.
That was the critical part of the presentation, switching control from OVHcloud to Megaport, and here we go.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Can you see my portal?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, this is the Megaport portal. Anyone can sign up to start using it. You register, fill in some company details, add some information about the markets where you want to acquire services, and then you're ready to go. This is just the landing page showing you the documentation information about getting started on the marketplace and our Twitter feed featuring the webinar today even. And then I move across to the services. Now this is a shared portal, so I have some of my colleagues doing other things in here as well. So let me just filter that out. And this is what the portal would look like on day one when you sign into it. You're only really given some simple options. You can create a Megaport cloud router, like we talked about earlier, decide where you want it and the data rate that you want to have for the throughput. We've got a new product that's coming that we're not really covering today. It's a Megaport Virtual Edge. Watch this space for that one. And then we're going to create a port right now as a part of the demo. So if I click on Create Port, you can see it lists the hundreds of locations that we have globally. And let's just filter that down to Germany. And then we can see all of the data center locations that we have in Germany right now. So let's just choose one of these. Let's say we're in Dusseldorf and we want to create a port there. So I click Next, and then I have all of the options can be provisioned on this page. So I can select a 1 gig port or a 10 gig port. I can add a name. So let's call it my OVHcloud port. I can then decide if I want to show this port on the Megaport marketplace. So this is where partners often display their ports so that other people can connect to them and consume services across the Megaport network. You can decide on the term. The port is just on a month-by-month basis. If you want to keep it flexible, you can keep it on a month-by-month basis, and then if you switch it off, you just pay for that month, and then you can stop using it. If you want to go for a 12-month term, that's a 5% discount, or a 10% discount for a 36-month term. You can always add a reference to everything to feed through into your invoicing. That's under your control. And then you can also create diverse pair of ports. If you want to have 2 physical ports inside the data centers that support that, you can create one in the blue zone and one in the red zone so that they will be separated. We also allow you to combine ports, and you can combine up to 8 ports together to get 80 gigabits per second inside a lag. Okay, so we've just provisioned this port. We just click next. We get a summary on that. We add the port, and then it appears here on the left-hand side in a shopping basket, and we go ahead and select order. So we validate that. We then tell you the term, the name, the price, and a link to the global services agreement with all of our SLA details in there as well. And the global services agreement is also available on our website under legal. So we're very public about all of the information behind our services. Okay, so now this port is in provisioning inside the Interaction data center in Dusseldorf. We can see that this one has been dropped into the diversity zone red. There's nothing physically happening inside this data center. The ports already exist. They're cabled out to a meet me room. And this is just in software, through our software-defined network, being allocated to my account in this case. And it will stay in my account for as long as I leave it there. If you as a customer bring on a new port, we will allow you 2 weeks free to get the cross connect in place before we start charging you for this physical port. And what I'm expecting is a letter of authorization to appear here at the top of this port, showing that the configuration of this port has been complete. You can in fact start provisioning services from this point if you want to, but we're just waiting to see that LOA, and then I'll open up that LOA that has just appeared and show you the demarcation point inside the data center. So if I click on that letter of authorization, it opens up the single page PDF for this data center, right down to the port numbers. And we have a team as well that will help you get your port activated inside the data center. So the activations team are always there to help you with that. Yeah, so back to the portal. We've now got this port in Dusseldorf, and we're going to connect it across to OVHcloud Connect. So what I do is I click on plus connection, and then I can see all of the different things that we can connect into this port. So multiple clouds. I can do a private virtual cross connect from this port to any other port globally. I can connect to internet exchanges, Megaport owned and third party. I can connect to any of the over 350 Megaport marketplace partners. And then finally, I can enter a service key, and that's what we're looking for. So I've got a key that Stefan has provided me, and based on the steps that we just ran through on this call, on this webinar, and I can paste in the key that has been provided. And we can see that this key is based in Frankfurt. We can see it's a valid key, and it has a maximum speed of 200 megabits per second. So all of this has been configured automatically on the OVHcloud side. So clicking next on that, I can then give it a name. So this is my VXC to OVHcloud in Frankfurt. Okay. I can then provision a speed across the Megaport network anywhere from 1 megabit per second to 200 megabits per second. But seeing that you've requested 200 megabits per second into OVHcloud, we would assume that's what you're really trying to achieve. So you put in the maximum there. You can then put in a VLAN ID for the port on the AN side. So this is your port in Dusseldorf. So I can just use anything from the VLAN ID range. We'll check that it's available. Of course, it's available because this is our first VLAN on this port. I can then click next to give me a summary of everything that I have provisioned, including the key, the data rate, and the price. And then I click Add VXC. Okay, again, it appears in the cart on the left-hand side. I can go back, order that, the same process again, click on Order Now, and it goes through a deployment process, and that's it. So that is now in provisioning. It takes about 1 minute or just under 1 minute for this virtual cross connect to be completed from the port into OVHcloud Connect provider product. And then you'll see that appearing inside the OVH console to complete and connect that off into whatever virtual machines or other services that you want to consume on OVHcloud. So it's as simple as that. And right now, just to summarize, we're showing a single port in Dusseldorf in the red zone. It's a 10 gig port. In this case, we're only using 2% of the entire bandwidth available. And then we're connecting 200 megabits per second across to OVHcloud Connect in Frankfurt. And if you want to create additional or redundant connections, you can do that as well, entirely under your own control. So with that, I think we can pause there and go back and have a look if we have any questions. Stefan, any questions?
Absolutely. Let's see. Do we want to switch back, or we can leave it also there?
I can stop sharing.
I see. Wait a second. I go back to this page so that you can see our slides, our starting slide again. And let's have a look at the questions. There are some questions coming in. And one of them is, can I connect to any OVHcloud Connect location from a Megaport location? Any OVHcloud location, yeah, via the POPs. So we have the 3 POPs in Europe, but of course, through our POPs, you can go to also the data center in OVHcloud in Warsaw. That's not restricted at all. If that was the question, I assume so.
So essentially, if you're connecting to Megaport, you can go from any Megaport location into OVHcloud, and then if you want to get to the Spain or Polish OVHcloud region, then you can do that across the OVHcloud backbone.
Yeah. Next one is, how long does it take to set up an end-to-end connectivity? I think that's meaning as well the OVHcloud part that I showed, and then the Megaport part overall. So assuming you have a data center or an instance in an OVHcloud data center already, and then you set up the connectivity, I would assume that the setup in OVHcloud takes approximately 1 to 5 minutes, and then you switch over and do what Paul just did, and we learned that that is also taking around 2 to 5 minutes probably, huh? Paul?
Yeah, I would agree. It's under your control, so you can do the provisioning as fast as you like, but essentially it's real-time provisioning of the services.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say it is probably under 15 minutes if you start the whole process and you know what you're doing and you have prepared all activities and you get the service keys then from OVHcloud so that you can enter them into the Megaport web page.
Yeah, and incidentally, both sides has got really good documentation. There's a lot of step-by-step documentation showing you exactly all the steps that I did today. But if you need help and some assistance the first time you do it, then we're happy to do that for you and just jump on a call. Once we show it to you once, it's you'll essentially be up and running at self-service.
Yeah, absolutely. Same on our side. Next question I see here is, If I want to provision services, do I need an OVH account and a Megaport account? So for the OVH side, definitely so, because you must have an OVH instance, otherwise that it makes no sense to connect to it. So OVH Cloud account is expected. And for the Megaport side,
Yes.
same.
Yes.
Same.
You
So
need
so you need 2 accounts, and you need also 2 orders. As we have seen it here, and in the end, the end-to-end connection price is then part of the part OVH, the Megaport part, where you have, which has just been shown by Paul, where you do the connectivity from one a Megaport POP to the OVH Cloud POP, and then the cloud side or the OVH Cloud side, where you go from the OVH Cloud POP to the data center that you have your virtual machine running in. So this is also then you have 2 accounts, and you also have 2 parts on the bill, or 2 bills in the end, that are covering the whole cost for this solution.
Yeah, that's a good thing to cover. It's often a question we get actually about where is the billing coming from. Yeah, two bills based on each account.
I've got one question here, that is, what is needed for using the Megaport Cloud router to connect to OVH Cloud when the on-prem systems are not in a Megaport data center?
When the on-prem systems are not in a Megaport data center. Okay, so if you're trying to get from an on-prem situation in a data center, you need to go through a physical Megaport. So if you happen to not be in one of our data centers, then you can get a last mile connection, or you can get a metro connection or a campus connection, depending on how far away you are. And ideally, just getting a fiber or a dark fiber cross connect into us is enough then to fulfill your needs. And I realize that there can be a little bit of work with that, but you have to remember, once you get that in place and you fulfill that connection to Megaport, all of the rest of the connectivity from that port, the 100 connections, is all under your control in minutes from then on.
Yeah, I think this first mile still needs to be done, obviously, to a Megaport POP then. Let's see. There is one question which is talking about cloud migration. How can I use this for a cloud migration if I'm migrating from, let's say, on-premise to a cloud data center? Can I use this, and how do I set it up properly? Let's say you have a on-premise solution, and you want to move that, migrate that to OVH Cloud by accident.
Yeah. So going from on-prem is just like the demo that we've shown there. Set up your port, and then probably if you've got a lot of data to move, you'll set up a pretty big connection, maybe a 5 gig connection, and then you can push as much data as you want through that. We're not charging any fees for the amount of data that you push through it. We're charging based on what is provisioned. And then OVH Cloud, of course, is not charging for ingress or egress fees. So
Correct.
you can just go for it and go for your migration. If you're in another cloud and you want to do a migration across, then you don't have to take a port in a data center. You could do that today. So you can just spin up an MCR, connect it to OVH Cloud, connect it to the other cloud, and make your transfer. And
yeah, exactly.
that's
Like we've seen, for example, in the Kiwi case, or in the example that you had with the data center in Marseille, if you connect directly AWS via Megaport to OVH Cloud via Megaport, then you can of course migrate via secure connectivity directly from there, without the need to setting up the first mile yourself, because you are already in a data center that is connected to a Megaport like AWS, Google, or Azure.
Yeah, and you mentioned, secure connection as well. So it's entirely private. So even if you're connecting the 2 clouds, it's not going out across the internet. And of course, most of the other major clouds have egress fees. So if you connect over a private connection through Megaport, the egress fees are much, much lower than trying to do that across the internet. So the service will basically pay for itself if you're sending a large amount of data.
Exactly. Let me see, but I think we covered all of the questions I've seen here. There are no other questions coming through. We have 8 minutes left, but I think we gave a good demo. I hope you took something with you from this presentation, from the demo, and you see that it's up and running live. You can use it immediately if you want to. We put our LinkedIn profiles into the chat, so if you want to stay connected, we are more than happy to get connected with you. And also, of course, if you have questions, you can send them to as well Paul as to me, so that we can come back to you after that with a presentation or with a detailed answer to your question. This session is going to be and is recorded, and we will publish it later so that you can also review it if you want to via the YouTube channels of Megaport and OVHcloud. And if there is no other question coming up, or is there? Wait a second. Yeah, here is another question. Sorry, I was already closing the call, but there is a question. I believe I have heard Paul mention MCR being able to do route filtering. Can you please share more info about this?
Yes, this is a new feature that's actually in early field trial now with certain customers. So if you want to connect with me afterwards, I'm happy to take you through that. So it's not generally available for everyone, but it's a feature that's coming out in the next couple of weeks to everyone using the MCR. And then just a little bit of detail behind it. What it'll allow you to do is to filter on 2 different levels. You'll be able to filter between each connection on a broad sort of a broad brush type of way. So having some broad rules saying one virtual cross connect can see a second cross connect, but not the third one. Broad rules like that. And then you can go into detailed rules around the BGP advertisements and have some allow and deny rules in there, right down to prefix level. So very, very detailed and a lot of control of what you're doing with the Megaport Cloud Router. But happy to have a more in-depth call about that if you want to get in touch.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the contact details are there. Just connect via LinkedIn to Paul, and then you can send the question directly to him and discuss further. Okay, but now I don't see any other question. So now we're done. So thank you, Paul, for joining me. Thank you all for listening to me and Paul and listening to our slides and presentation and to our demo.
Great. Thank you, Stefan. Thanks for hosting us.